Welcome to Let's Talk Shalom. I am your host, Proverbs Guy. Also, your co host here is your dream guy. Brian, would you
Hey,
like to introduce our special guest today?
she's a very special guest. This is my personal friend, my unofficial relationship coach. I need to actually hire her and give her some money for all her advice. And one of our coaches on the Dream Helper Network, life coach, relationship coach, Annalisa O'Toole, also a podcast host.
Thank you so much, Brian. It's great to be here with you guys. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming and being here with us today. Just a light question to get things going. How many different hats do you actually wear?
So, I am a wife, um, a mom of two rescue fur kids. We have Hansel and Gretel. They're our little fur creatures. All of my
Are they
husband and
cats
I,
or dogs?
two little dogs.
Oh, I love you guys. I love you
Yeah.
already.
We are empty nesters. It is fabulous. Our adult kids are all off payroll and we are just living the dream.
Awesome.
So, and the other hat I wear is, as you introduced me, Brian, my hat is a life and relationship coach, and I started my business in 2007 in a little town called Loganville, Georgia, and um, ever since then, I have seen probably thousands of clients by now, and I've developed some really awesome programs that I'm going to be publishing later this year, where it's actually a DIY, which means, okay, me and my partner, we can't make it to counseling, or hey, you live way up in Young Harris now, so we're still in Atlanta. And so, what can we do because we need help? And I'm going to offer these fabulous programs that allow people, it's like watching a documentary or a video, and it allows them to do the lessons that I teach in my sessions at their own pace in their own time. Is that not so awesome? And so they can actually get that relationship coaching on their own. And it's going to be fabulous because people are really desperate for communication skills, learning the true secrets to, you know, deep compatibility and intimacy and so much more. So it's exciting. I love what I do.
Okay, so what would you say is the larger portion of your clientele? Is it the people who are having trouble dating, getting a relationship started, or is it more established couples going through some rocky times and just needing some foundation?
I would say the majority of my clientele are couples, but my second largest are individuals dating that are having different experiences. Whether it was a recent breakup that they're struggling with, or they've met someone new and they're not sure if that person is the one. I actually do have one published program right now, and it's called Attracting Your Soulmate. And it's the 4 steps to attract your soulmate, and it's pretty awesome. And everyone who has done this program meets the one in a very short time. So if you're not ready, then you don't want to do the
Can you
program.
give us step 3 of the 4 steps for
Okay,
attracting your soulmate?
absolutely. So step 3 is the most important one. It's funny that you picked that number. So it's making your list. You've got to have your requirements, your must haves, your list of red flags, and your list of absolute deal breakers. So if a person knows who they are inside, and they know what they're passionate about in life, and they know where their values and priorities, what those are for them, then they can better determine the best. Obviously we can't pick the perfect 100% matched person, but we can have our list of ideals. God knows more than we know, so we just have to trust in him and pray over this list. And I ask all of my clients, I encourage you to keep this list in your Bible. But if you know what you want, then you have a stronger chance of meeting that person. So yes, that's number 3 is have that list. I hear some
Okay.
typing going on. You guys.
I was trying to let Brian know that I think he has YouTube pulled up in the background, so there's a bit of an echo whenever he has his mic unmuted. I didn't want that to take away from what you were going over.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. So in in the process of attracting a soulmate, I also tell people too, they don't have to try, to meet someone. Deep belief, and all, I elaborate a lot about, what that means to really deeply believe. And one of the steps is, you know, about that belief is believing that there is that one person that God has planned for you, and that one person who can love you for everything about you, even your weaknesses. So
Now,
it's
these
it's
4 points, though, the four
Mhm.
points to attracting your soulmate, is this something that's laid out in your program, or is this something that's in one of your works?
I have um, had paid sessions with people who come for dating advice and want to learn these steps, but it is also in the program. And I have priced this program so inexpensive that it is crazy. It is only $29.99. So that's, you know, a couple of, fast food runs. You could have the money for meeting the love of your life. So it's very reasonable, and it's only 29 minutes. So it's not this long drawn out. And actually 12 minutes of that program is actually dating tips, that's a bonus at the end. So it's a very, very short program. It gets right to the point, and it just really helps people understand that, if you consciously, shift your mindset to the believing that you can meet the person and then follow the steps, it really is something that works. So,
I'd like to throw something what Annalisa said, which is that's awesome, and just to encourage people in that. Proverbs guy might know the proverb says, "Buy wisdom as if it was silver." I mean, like buying a book's like $15, and you get 20, 30 years of experience that you can read in 8 hours for $15 and change your life for $15. That's amazing. But 30 minutes of wisdom for $30 is like the price of going out to eat once some places. But you can
right,
totally change your life and save yourself years and years of waiting and heartache and all this for the price of like going to Olive Garden once,
right.
or going to Starbucks 3 times. I mean, that's an incredible investment
Mhm.
of all this wisdom and all this experience and all these people you've talked to and all this training you've had is condensed into 30 minutes, and they can get it for $30.
Mhm.
That's just an incredibly wise use of money. That's an incredible investment in themselves and their future partner and their families.
And
Right.
In my
I don't
opinion.
care how tight your schedule is, any one of us can find 29 minutes out of our time.
Right. If it's important to you, what you invest in grows bigger. So what you put yourself involved in will expand. So if you decide and make that decision to learn more, no matter what the life coaching appointment is about, it could be because you're feeling less social and feeling sad a lot, but you don't think you're depressed, or maybe you do feel depressed. Maybe you don't know what you want to be when you grow up. Maybe you need to discover your calling session. Maybe you're having trouble. This is the biggest one. If you asked me, what is the number one problem people come to you with, regardless if they're single or married, I would say communication skills, because people are so bombarded right now with the way that people talk in the media and on TV. And what they're doing is they're not talking in a way that fosters and embraces unity. They talk in a way that, here's my way, you've got to be crazy. Or here's what we're doing over here with their label. Why are you, and then they fill in the blank with their label, why are you doing it that way? And so we have this huge percentage of groups, politically, religiously, all arguing. And so I just this weekend, I had a couple drive 2 hours to see me, and we had the most wonderful session. And the whole time we spent on communication and how they could understand each other better with their personality types and how they could respond when certain things are said, um, and helping them learn a different perspective. So it's wonderful, to be able to do that. When I first started my business, this is kind of funny. I literally felt like a referee because these two people, they would go at it. Have you ever had that happen, Brian?
That's why you keep all the offices, all the items in the office are made of plush or pillows. No
Right.
hard objects, no glass.
Right. I'd have clients, get up and say, I've had enough. And they would just be so upset. Well, I have learned the skills to say, before you guys want to just really spend a lot of time telling me what he said, what she said, um, we have a short time together. Let's go ahead. I'm going to teach you some skills about some quality and positive communication so that you can do this one thing. You can have mature, calm, productive conversations that do not lead to arguments. And they're like, oh my gosh, it's like they found gold when they learn,
Mhm.
that can we really talk without arguing? And I said, absolutely. So it's a wonderful thing.
That's such an investment. It's like, for like whatever the coaching fee is per hour, you cannot argue with this person hardly at all for the next 3 years. I mean, that would be absolutely worth it. And it's better than going to
Right.
the bar and dealing with spending on the
Right.
consequences of arguing. It's
Let me
just,
let me
prevented up front.
right. Let me ask you guys something. Do you feel that a person ever really wins an argument?
Never.
Exactly.
No, it's not outside the courtroom. It's just a ongoing
Right.
thing where you won a battle, but you've set yourself up for 10 more battles,
That's
Right.
right.
and you're going to lose most of them. And you both of you are just going to deplete yourselves. And if you're on the same side, that's not good. It's like a civil war. It destroys the country in the end. No matter who wins it, it destroys the country.
It's true.
I would like
Go ahead. Stephen.
I would just like to know what got you started. What made you wake up one day and realize I can offer other people help with their relationships, and that's what I'm called to do.
That's a great question. So I woke up one day very unhappy with my own relationship, very troubled with the family background and the problems there. And also, I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. So I had lack of purpose. I was struggling financially. My relationship was in jeopardy. I had two little girls. And I said, there has got to be more to life. And so I started down a path of trying to discover my own calling. And in that small little season, this is a huge thing. When you start contemplating clarity for something in your life, and you're asking God and you're praying about it, you better be ready because those signs will show up like all around, but you've got to be in tune. It might be a song on the radio, it might be a billboard, it might be a friend. And I had so many things happen. I had a friend say, have you ever heard of life coaching? I'm like, no, what is that? She said, well, I know you're going to school to get your BA in Christian counseling. And I know that you really want to help people because you really want them to not feel how you felt with all the situations. I lost a young child, my firstborn child. So I understand deeply the tremendous grief and how it can feel to lose someone that you love, especially a child. I've been through a divorce. I came from a blended family as a young girl. I had a lot of things that I went through, and so I yearned to help other people who were going through the same things. So that was the reason I chose to become a life coach. And when someone said, you would be great at that, I was going down the counselor's, path. and decided life coaching fit me a little bit better because, and I get this question a lot, what's the difference between a counselor and a life coach? A counselor gets deeply involved in childhood trauma and childhood psychology, the
Hmm.
past. But a life coach, let's start on the starting line today. Some of those things probably do need to be talked about, but we don't dwell on them and go through a long process of those things. I'm more motivating and inspirational in starting with today and moving forward in a positive way and taking action steps moving forward, because we can't change the past, but we can change our tomorrows.
Well,
And
and you touched on something that was really profound, and I'm sure, Brian, you've dealt with this too, so you guys can both address it. But you said in a very childlike way, which I found humorous. You said you deal with a lot of people who don't know what they want to be when they grow up, and offhand, you would think you're dealing with children, but these are adults. These are adults, some 20s, 30s, 40 years old. They don't know what they want to be. They never
Right.
established their purpose.
You're right. And you know what, Stephen? This is so interesting. But some people have never thought about this, but one of the top, I would say, in the top five problems that couples have is one person, probably in one out of three couples that I see, one of those partners is so codependent on their spouse for feeling good about their self, for feeling worthy, for feeling deserving, for feeling, if it's a woman, for feeling beautiful, if it's a man, for feeling, good enough. And those are things we have to heal independently, because if you're too needy, clingy, it will destroy a relationship. And I truly believe that if people could find their purpose, because I believe everyone has one, and you wake up every day, there's two ways that you can wake up in the morning. You can wake up and you can say, "Good God, it is morning already." Ugh. Or you can wake up and say, "Good morning, God." And there's a big difference. You know what that difference is? The people who love their life, they love where they're going that day. They love who they're helping and serving. They know they have a set of gifts and talents, and they're ready and they're hustling to go and use those gifts and talents somewhere in this world that's going to make a difference.
well, the kind of coaching I do mostly is having dream interpretation is calling. And we are always handed that before, like wherever you grew up anywhere in the world, still a lot of the world. Your dad's a bricklayer, you're a bricklayer. Dad's a carpenter, you're a carpenter.
Right.
Dad's a potter, you're a potter. And now we have to figure it out on our own, but we don't really figure it out till we get out of high school. Then you got like a 3-year program. And we just don't have the sense of identity in general they had, because they were like, I'm Irish, I'm Italian, I'm Chinese, but everybody's so mixed up now. And then their heritage is so blended. There's no one singular thing you are. And your culture, your religion, your values aren't necessarily handed to you. You got to figure all that out, plus your career now. And I think a lot of people just they kind of fill the void relationship sometimes. Instead of finding out who they are, they just kind of connect with someone else and
Right.
forget about it. But you can't forget about it. If God puts you here to do something, it will eat
It's
at
so
you until you
true.
do it.
And another point along with that, Brian, is that an analogy that I use a lot in sessions with couples is, I grew up with four brothers. My dad was a football coach. He actually played college football. And in that sport, okay, each one of those players, let's take the running back and the quarterback, for example. Those guys, and my husband was just talking about this the other day with his high school that he really follows and loves to learn about. This coach, the parents will think, "Oh, the coach is huddling up. Okay, practice is over." But then the individual coaches, the offense line coach, the defensive line coach, they gather those players to practice their individual skill, because the team is only as great as each of the individual players. So you've got to sharpen your saw individually and then you come to the team. Well, marriage and relationships are the same way. Individually, you've got to be your very best. You've got to heal your past trauma. You've got to know what your purpose is and feel great about life, because you know what? It makes you a more interesting partner because you've got something going on and you're less dependent on them to feel good about life and yourself. So, yeah, purpose is a big thing. And a lot of times, Stephen, the couple's appointment will come first, then that develops into two individual appointments, then that develops into someone discovering their calling, and it just is like dominoes sometimes.
Do you think that calling is sort of almost a prerequisite? Like in the Bible, you married inside your tribe. The Levites are priests, Judah was rulers, Danites were sailors. It was kind of handed to people. You married in your tribe. You married someone with a compatible lifestyle and calling.
Hmm.
Do you think it's advisable someone figures out their calling before they find a mate? Or if you're already married, how do you find a way to make your callings mesh together? If
Oh,
you're not in that,
great question, Brian.
Yeah, that's a great question. I have a very
You have to
deep.
match that with a great answer, and
you will. I
you
promise you.
have
Yeah,
to
this
go
comes
back
through.
and tell us who your dad played with. I mean, you can't just pass
Are
right
you
by that.
sure? Oh, I
Yeah.
might lose clients if I do that. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and spill the beans that he played for Auburn. So
Oh, great.
yeah, he did. And but
Great.
what's interesting is he was there when Irk Russell was the head coach, and then I went to Georgia Southern, and so fast forward all those years later, my brother walked on with Georgia Southern his freshman year under Irk Russell. Amazing, right?
Well, I'll tell you, I grew up loving college football. It was an idol in my life, so I don't follow it anymore. But I was a diehard Gators fan, so I hated Alabama and I loved Auburn. So yay in my book for your dad.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, to answer Brian's question, his question again was, do I encourage couples to have their purpose and calling, you know, in in line and have that figured out before they become involved with someone or anything. And so it is advisable to do that, but that's not always what happens. And sometimes people can fall in love, they have a great relationship, but somewhere down the line they decided to change careers altogether. So this brings up a very important characteristic that is often um, fallen by the wayside in troubled relationships, and that is taking an inventory of your partner's values and priorities and going ahead and deciding. First, you need to know what they are. They need to know yours, and you need to know theirs. And this is why it's important not to emotionally or intimately connect with someone until you know that you know that you know. I think everyone should go through evaluation. That's what dating is, right? We're evaluating, we're learning more about the person. But if you know what your partner's values and priorities are, then you've got to be willing to respect and support those and not try to change them. The number one problem I see in relationships is that one person trying to change the other, having a set of expectations. Do you know there's only three places that expectations should exist? A teacher to a student, a parent to a child, and an employer to an employee. As adults, we don't tell someone else, you need to do this or you need to do that.
Mm.
They are an individual person with a set of values and priorities, and hopefully walking with the Lord and getting guidance. No one has that authority or right, even if you are emotionally connected, to tell you that you should do this or that. Now, I believe in inspiring people with stories, with questions. Have you thought of, blah, blah, blah. So, can two people be together that don't, that may, neither of them may know their path? One person may not know their path. It will work if you have a partner who is willing, they love your heart, they love your values and priorities, they're willing to respect that there might be some changes and support you. Um, it's not easy to find, but it's very important to evaluate whether or not that person will respect and support your path.
So you're saying their disposition about it might matter more than the calling. Like if there's a couple and one's called to be a pastor, pastor is a small town guy. They grew up there. They stay there. These are their people. They're committed to that geography. and missionary, and others called to be a missionary to Kenya, and they have a heart for Africa and traveling, and their mission, their calling is somewhere else. Would you say that the disposition towards a calling is going to affect them more than the contrary callings? Like they might agree, we'll do this for 5 years, that for 5 years, or okay.
I think it's very important for them to figure out that compromise, share with each other why they feel led to make a decision, what leads them to that decision, what are the pros and the cons, and really work together. Now, the only way that works, and I'll go back to what we talked about a little while ago, is they've got to be great communicators.
Absolutely.
Because if one person is a giver and one person is a taker, then that's going to be disastrous when they try to communicate. But if both people are willing to say, okay, who is coming to the table with the problem and who is coming to the table as the listener and the empathizer? Because if you have two people that are problem holders, that conversation will lead to an argument and it will go round and round. One person needs to be the person that stays neutral and says, tell me more about how you feel. They should pretend they're the counselor. Tell me more how you feel. Well, what else is on your heart about that? And just stay neutral and be a listener. People care more about how much you care than they care about how much you know. And so it works that way in relationships too.
Absolutely. I have a singles group. I've had a couple of years. Well, Psalm 16s now, and then previously Hebrew Hearts. But the first sign of disaster was someone always saying, "Oh, don't worry, I'll change him, or he'll change, or she'll change, or I'll change her." And I'm like, you need prayer because that's the first thing. And then if they can't communicate. So one of the million-dollar questions for me is, you said soulmates earlier, and there's kind of two concepts. There's the Plato kind of idea of there's someone out there, there's one person for you, and this is who your person is, and you can miss that person. And you can marry the wrong person and miss your soulmate. And there's also the I think it's the Gary Chapman version of the soul, SOLE versus SOUL, which is whoever you find is your soulmate, and you learn to grow together. So in your view, do you think everyone has a soulmate, or just some people have a soulmate, SOUL, or is it you find someone and you make it work? Or what's your kind of view on that?
Well, I feel that biblically, if you find someone and you fall in love, you should, and you decide to get married and be together, you should do everything you can to work that relationship out. It's very easy to say, oh, but I've met this person over here and I think they might be my soulmate. Well, you know why the grass looks greener over there is because there's sewage over there.
They're over the septic tank.
Yeah. So the thing is, I believe that you can have multiple soulmates. Soulmates don't have to necessarily define two intimate people, which I think is reserved, of course, biblically for a man and a woman. And also just, being in love and being married, you can be soulmates. But I think you can have like a great, match as a best friend. And sometimes that's termed as soulmates.
So it's like a divine appointment.
I think so. I think that you can, of course, whenever you're in love, when you're in that loving feeling in a relationship, you believe that person is your soulmate. And you tack on some years, if you didn't do the work in the beginning, identifying their true, deeper character, evaluating their values and their priorities, and we don't think about those things when we're young, then you realize, I don't think this is my soulmate. So, we think we might have our soulmate, but I think it's kind of a fun term. I don't think of it too deeply. I kind of see a little bit of value in both definitions, really.
So it's not the completely romanticized. It's one person, because Nicholas Sparks, who wrote all the Message in a Bottle notebook, he left his wife after all these years because he said she wasn't my soulmate after all, but I found my soulmate. And it could become like a divine mandate. Well, you didn't find your person, so just run off with someone else. I know you didn't mean that, but I think it's important to clarify. Like, for you, a soulmate is someone's like, God put you together and you're going to work it out.
Right.
But if you marry someone and you don't think it, or you might change your mind, this year they're my soulmate, next year they're not, then they are again. It's important to stick it out on your commitments and to
Right.
be good to them and keep going, even if it's not perfect all the time.
Right. I don't really, I love the saying that you don't really fail. You either win or you learn.
Mm,
I love that.
awesome.
So,
And I was
I
going
would
to
like
go ahead,
I'd
Steve.
like to rewind just a little bit because you touched on something that I think was like really great, but I feel like we could get a little more clarity on a healthy boundary, and that was between the difference of wanting to see the potential in your loved one and pushing them towards that, but also not crossing that boundary of taking away their identity by trying to mold them into what you think you can see them be. Where's the healthy bounds?
I think that if you, as a partner, um, encourage your partner to answer more questions, and you like actually pretend that you're a guide. So you would say, well, how, you told me that you really liked this and this. Does that bring you joy, or is that energetically draining? And help them as they, if you're speaking in terms of they're trying to find clarity, they're not sure their path, they need more support and understanding than they need specific direction. Because the idea for life coaching too is not to tell people what to do, but help them think through different perspectives and guide them toward the direction that they feel their heart needs to go. Like bring up things that make them think, things that make them go, and things that, you know, embrace the idea of, well, that gives, me a new idea. This gives me something else to research. That's something my husband does for me that I love. I say, I have this great idea for a book. What do you think? And he doesn't say, well, aren't you working on two other ones? Which I am. He doesn't say, well, how long is that going to take? What he'll say is, well, what made you think of that idea? And he just comes back with questions. And it's wonderful because it helps me process this idea. And I think that's what our spouses need um, the most. Both partners need to be supportive and just, pretend they're a guide for the other.
And on the question on the community, like America is hyper independent. Um, where does that fall into helping find a spouse and maintaining the marriage? Church or family or coworkers or friends or wherever that community is. I know when you get married, community can change too. You might have a different set of friends, or your relationship with your family might change. And I was always a big advocate of like your community might know you better than this other person, and they'll see things you don't, like your blind spots, or they'll see. Well, this is what I do a lot. I see who someone's supposed to be, and I see their potential, and I chase their potential. But everyone around me is like, Brian, that's not their potential. This is a reality,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't bet your life on someone changing or
Right.
growing or reaching their
That's
potential.
right. That's why it's so important in the evaluation stage, which should really take no longer than 90 days, and that would be a lot. But in
I
those
like that.
90 days, you ask a person things like, I mean, I asked my husband on the second date, I said, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And his answer failed my test. I mean, do you know what he said? He said, I'm just trying to get through today. And I'm like, he doesn't even have a plan.
You're the planner of the relationship, but he's a spontaneous one.
Right. And here we are. Right. So, but no, another great question when you're getting to know someone, and that's the
Mm-hmm.
thing, get to know people before you actually date them. Like,
Mm-hmm.
just get to know people. Say, where do you see yourself? Are you a mountains person or a beach person? How much social time, is fun to you? How much independent alone time do you like to have? It's amazing how many people cannot be alone. And this is a
Yes,
red
I know
flag.
some of them. No
Mhm.
offense, Stephen.
Well,
Stephen's an
no.
ENFP. So,
Then there's
Ah,
like the bigger, deeper questions. Okay, do these people like margarine or do they do butter? Do they do 2%
right.
whole milk? there
The
are
grocery store is
vast
called Minnie and
differences.
Dolores.
Oh, food is
Right.
a big thing. Food is
Yes,
a
it
big
is.
thing. But I want to back up. I want to backtrack real quick. So Brian, for those listening, Brian just threw out that Stephen, the 4 letters that identify Stephen. What those 4 letters are his personality type, which is based on a little evaluation that we do as life coaches. And if you have not had your personality profile done, it is a wonderful tool, especially for you and your partner, because it gets you in their head and they get in your head. It helps you identify why they answer certain things the way they do, why they respond the way they do, and it helps you understand yourself better.
Hmm.
And so the E in Steven stands for extroverted versus introverted, because some people are outgoing and some people are more, um, instead of outgoing and people oriented, some people are more introverted and task oriented. So that's just one example. And so those personal profiles are amazing. And I do those evaluations when I do, especially premarital sessions. So I just wanted to define what that was, because a lot of the listeners are like, what do you mean he's a, ABCD?
Well, that's great because I was going to ask you like which personality assessments you use. I know the color code is red, blue, white, and yellow, and the reds and blues want to change everyone else, and the yellows and
Right.
whites don't want to be changed. And this is
I
internal
was a
conflict.
yellow.
Yeah, it's yellow. A lot of ENFPs are yellow. So and then the Myers Briggs is the 4 letters. I'm INFJ, which is the rarest
Right.
overall. It's one of every 200 men, and I have to socialize once a week, and then I'm like, okay, I'm done. I fulfilled my obligations. See y'all next
Right.
week. And ENFPs are very social.
Yes.
So Stephen loves, chatting everybody on the podcast and everything. So, and he's great with social interaction, social intelligence, timing, and personal questions, relational questions. And I'm more informational. I kind of dig for information. So, which
Brian is a walking dictionary of knowledge.
I
He's an
got the Mr. Wikipedia
encyclopedia, but a
award.
lexicon at the same time.
I got the
Right.
Mr. Wikipedia award at my office 2 weeks ago for East Tennessee. Everybody else got an award, and I wasn't most popular, most handsome. I was Mr. Wikipedia. But so, Annalisa, which personality assessments do you use mostly in your coaching? Is it the Myers Briggs, or do you use a
Um,
couple of them?
I use I use the Briggs Myers. That's also nicknamed the DISC, the DISC, because I
Hmm.
turn it into a short story for travelers, so people can identify if they were going on the trip, which personality they would be, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
make it like a real fun activity. So yeah.
We did at my regional office meeting. The director of the whole East Tennessee had them divide up into groups, and then they had to plan a trip according to their type, so they could understand. So it
Right.
worked out really
So
well.
here's
It was very
something too.
efficient. That's great.
Did it really?
That
So
was great
something
because I was
else
like,
that's interesting,
good.
right? Well, there's a Christian author, and I love all of his books, and his name is Andy Andrews. And in The Traveler's Gift, if you're not familiar, he actually uh, writes about these, but in order to preserve the founders and the creators of these personality types, he used animals. And so it was really
Uh,
cute because he gave each one an animal. So I know you spoke, Stephen, of the colors. So there's the color personality, there's the disc, and then there's I don't even know, what do you call
is it
the
the
one?
fox and the lion? And there were two
I,
more. The CIA uses one of those. They
I
use the
think there,
4 animals.
there's a cat and there's a fish, and I think there's a dog in his book.
Okay.
But then there is another one where there's a Christian group that came out with a set of animals, but they're different than the ones Andy gave. But anyway, um,
Well, this might be a little hard for you to answer because you just described so many different uses for the same type of testing.
mhm.
But are there any two personality types that you come across after testing these couples and you cringe because you know it's going to be a uphill battle for them?
Yes. The
Can you share?
If an I is with a C, it is disastrous. Okay, and but let me go one step further. An I is a person who's very talkative and energetic and outgoing, life of the party, social butterfly, tends to run late, um, very, very people oriented. Okay.
NENFP.
And could be flighty, could be forgetful. Did I say talkative? Oh, and then they're very talkative.
The
Did I
yellow.
mention how talkative they are? Right.
Mhm.
Okay. A C is a quiet, very analytical person whose mind processes things in the order of facts. The I is processing the fun. Okay. The C is processing if they pass down a road, and there's two pastures, one side and the other side, and there's goats. They would ask the question, I wonder how those goats get from one side to the other. It's the same herd of goats. And that same C personality is the guy who would ask you if Adam in the Bible, I wonder if Adam had a belly button. They're just so intellectual, right?
Mhm.
And the I would answer that and say, who cares? Right? Like, what makes you think of that?
Mhm.
But the reason these two are oil and water is because it frustrates the sea that everything is a party and fun and laughter and optimistic, and can accuse the I of having unrealistic optimism, where
So,
that person would say there's no such thing. But yeah,
could I get your opinion then on
okay,
something? All right.
sure.
So, my girlfriend is an INFP, and
Okay.
I am, what did you say, Brian?
ENFP.
Are they good at compatible wise?
So you are INFP and she is ENFP,
He's the
She
E,
is
she's the I.
she is the INFP.
and you are
I am so extrovert.
He is an ENFP.
okay. So wow. So you have um so what you would have to do to be super compatible is just have a very strong understanding of what what brings her joy as an introvert, what brings you joy as an extrovert, and try to meet in the middle and have mutual interests that are they're going to be okay with each. For example, she may like to go out and dance, you might love to stay home and watch a movie, because if you're extroverted, you want to go out and do something. If you're introverted, you like movies, maybe. That's just an example. So it would be important to understand your differences and learn to, respect and support those differences, but think of ways to compromise when there's a difference that seems to collide.
Just a shameless plug for Steven's girlfriend. She does artwork for a band we both know, Tomorrow's End, and does incredible artwork. And
Oh,
it's kind of
wow.
cool to work together. So, like Steven, to be an extrovert, will interview the lead singer for Tomorrow's End for a podcast, and then her being the introvert will do the artwork for the band. So they're both on the same mission, but they're doing different aspects of it. She's doing the quiet time aspect, and he's doing the
Right.
social aspect. So and it
It's
works really
ministry from
well together.
multiple angles.
Right, right. But
But book covers, album covers, she can help you with it all.
that's awesome. But something we have to remember, if God made all of us the same, it would be such a boring world. And I think what happens with opposites attract, because there's typically at least some percentage of opposite with every couple. And it's sometimes I believe people are drawn together because the other person has some qualities they wish they could have more of. For example, um, she sees you and probably admires and respects that you can, you never meet a stranger and you love to get yourself out there, and that's appealing to her because she's not like that. So it's not always a negative. Those opposite things are not always a negative.
I heard that you need to have three of the four letters the same to be ideal, but one of them has to be different, otherwise you'll just bore each other. But
That's interesting.
the intuitives and the sensors have such different communication styles; it's very difficult for them. But if you need to have like the both have an N or both have an S, but outside of that, have a three the same letters and one different letter to be like
Right.
supposedly ideal. Um,
We have that dynamic in my marriage. We have the IS. So what happens with communication is we have learned to ask each other a lot of questions. not assume anything. We do not have expectations. And we explain things without getting frustrated. So we've learned to say, I'm not quite sure that I'm following you. Can you explain it to me again? Um, and those kinds of things. So if people, this is another reason why relationship coaching is so awesome, because
Mhm.
it helps couples figure out, oh, no wonder. So their mind is going here and my mind is going here. How can we meet in the middle? So,
So what's you guys Myers-Briggs?
um, let me tell you, I was just going to say
Oh,
something
it
about
got
that.
Go ahead,
personal.
go ahead.
No, this is so interesting.
I
Okay.
know
So
both of them, so I'm trying to guess. But I'll see if I'm right.
what, no, this is, have you ever met somebody that is all for? I'm telling you, I have met 5 people. I'm not kidding you. I have an
Mhm.
index card in my desk.
Mhm.
And in the last 16 years, I have only met 5 people, and I have their names written down, and my husband is one of them, that literally has a balance of all
So
4.
he's on the cusp of everything.
He has a
Sensing,
little bit.
intuitive, feeling, think,
Yes.
all of it. He's just
So
He
you
is.
acknowledge that overall he's always correct in the goal to try to obtain.
he can just access whatever personality he needs at the moment, just to pull from.
He is the perfect human.
He's a CIA.
He
He's
is
a
such
CIA waiting to happen.
We're
he is
interviewing him next.
he is very, very balanced. Now, if he is in the workplace, which he's retired now, but if he's in the workplace, he pulls a high D. Okay.
Mhm.
If we are at a family reunion, oh, he's an I all the way. He is so much fun. Okay. If we're planning our vacation, and money's involved, he becomes a very high C. And if we're getting ready to go on a trip, he's an S. He's loading the car, he's getting the snacks. It's unbelievable. So it's so funny because
He's a Swiss Army knife of human beings.
he is. He's one of those multitask tools that you pull out of your pocket that has all the little things in it. So when I was younger, and people can evolve, okay,
Mhm.
people can pull a high level of one personality and then have second to another one. But as they mature, go through personal growth, especially if they're Christian and they're really involved in growth, whether they read books, they are part of groups, they are invested in sharpening their saw in some way, right? Then I have seen people actually grow out of a particular personality. I was a very high I as a young 20 and 30,
Mhm.
30 something. And I'm much more of an S now with a little bit of I in there. But I, if do the test today,
Mhm.
I'm a high S. And I think that color, I was trying to remember the colors because I never used that one,
So
but I think that's what it
red's
is.
the if power, motivated by power. Blue's motivated by relationship or connection. White is
Okay.
motivated by peace, and yellow is motivated by fun.
Okay. So the I would be the yellow. So, but yeah, but people, they can change.
Mhm.
And it's very fascinating and interesting to study those. And it really helps people in the workplace because if you have a
Absolutely.
quiet, withdrawn person who just likes to be in the background, you don't want to put her at the front desk in the foyer. She
Mhm.
would rather work on, QuickBooks than be in the front. And sometimes people are misplaced in the workplace
Sure.
because, and I think some of the best employers are the ones who offer these tests to their employees because they're going to get the most benefit from knowing where that person's strengths and weaknesses are before they.
Absolutely. I study graphology, handwriting analysis, and like in Israel and Germany and France and Italy, you can't get hired at a big corporation for anything management or above without having your handwriting looked at. Not so they can fire you or hire you or not hire you because they know where you're fit. Because they realize it's like just like what you said, they lose so many people by placing
Right.
them in the wrong department. You're fired for performing poorly because you're an extrovert in accounting, not because you're a bad employee, but because you're an extrovert who should be in sales, but you've been stuck in accounting. And they can move you and keep you and save all that money, and you'll do great. Or
Wow.
do you do corporate consulting at all? Like if someone had a business or a company, could they call you and say, "Hey, can you come work with my employees to see how they could get along better or see where I could best place them?"
I do not do that, but one of my partner coaches, she does, and she's actually got 3 different appointments set up to speak for the staff at 3 different DFACS departments, and I'm so proud of her.
Oh, awesome.
Yes, she is a specialist in personal empowerment and productivity and awakening people's vision for feeling and understanding the mindset and how important it is to shift your mindset to no limits. There's no limits. What we think are limits are actually our fears.
Mhm.
So I think it's wonderful. She's going to go and talk with those groups.
That is amazing, especially the state being open to that. Kind of in the South, I work for the state of Tennessee, and my chain of command is really open to the personality stuff. But a lot of places,
But Brian,
places aren't.
I wanted to thank you because you gave me that little nugget about considering signing up and being a part of teaching the co-parenting class for couples who are going through a divorce.
Mhm.
Because one of the most important things for couples who are breaking up, the unfortunate thing about divorce is, the anger that comes along with that, the sadness of the children, but there's so many different issues that come with that. But teaching that co-parenting class would be a wonderful thing. And for those listeners who may be co-parenting, I'm sure that you understand the positives and negatives that come along with that. And there's some people who just they really go MIA in participating in
Mhm.
co-parenting, and it's really important to have that communication strengthened when you're trying to raise children but not in the same home.
Just try to kind of avoid the conflict. Some people
Right.
enjoy conflict, and some people avoid it, and then it's like amplified in divorce. But it's almost a ministry almost because you can totally change a child's life post divorce by
Right.
helping their parents to get along. And so many things we do, we chalk it off as secular psychiatry, but I mean,
Hmm.
this was a job of a rabbi or a priest or a pastor. Most of history is to facilitate these kind of things.
Right.
A
Well,
pastor's job as a shepherd is to heal relationships.
right, and children are going to mirror parents' feelings, and so it's important to have a positive, encouraging, and uplifting mindset and communication with all parties about all topics so that the children see, that they're being heard and understood. And
But in addition to this, you don't just have to be either falling in love or falling out of love or going through divorce. I imagine you can also help siblings or parents with children having relationship issues. With these tests, you can help a multitude of people with a relationship, not just a romantic one, right?
that's exactly right. As a matter of fact, there's been quite a few the last 3 years with what the world has gone through. People are at home. They were at home a lot more and in each other's spaces a lot more. And so I did a lot of teen parent co-parenting type sessions during a time where people were at home more. And so it's an important thing to learn how to communicate with not just the person that you love, but with teenagers, and even sometimes grandparents live in the home and they're from another generation. So that brings a whole new set of of things to the table as well.
And I work for the state and help people with developmental disabilities like autism and whatnot, and ADHD and things like this. And that emotional environment in the home can affect certain people's tremendously. If a child has any degree of autism, like they just absorb all that emotion, and people call it empaths and just certain personality types. And they just, I think the conflict really affects the entire household more than people realize. We don't realize how important it is to address it because we often don't realize how much that conflict is affecting other people. Not just the person we have conflict with, but everyone else in that situation, like the entire office, the entire household, et cetera, et cetera.
Hmm. You're exactly right.
I was going to ask you real quick because it just kind of lit me up inside in a good way. Like, yes, someone gets it. What we were talking about earlier about or maybe intentional dating is like, we don't say, "Oh, you're cute. Let's go out and I can invest all my time, money, and energy into seeing if you're going to work or not." that's something better done on the front end. Like establish someone's values before you start. Because anytime you invest in someone, your brain has to justify that. Like gambling, you lose $10, your brain has to justify it by telling yourself you can win 50. So you just keep going and putting more and more into something that's not working. Uh, but on the front end, get to know their values and what they're about before you
Yes.
start investing yourself into that person. And I like what you said about 90 days because we're always told it takes all these years. But if you don't know someone in 90 days, you're not asking the right questions.
Right. And
And,
there's also some things, Brian, that I feel are important in dating and in that 90-day trial
mhm,
and evaluation. Um, there's things that you can learn without asking. And here's a good one. So
mhm,
let's say you go to a restaurant, watch how that person treats the server. Do they look that person in the eye? Do they say, thank you so do they say thank you? Do they brush them off a little bit? Like that was always
mhm,
important to me because the servers get brushed off a lot, and I feel like each person deserves eye contact and a kind word, no matter who they are, where they are. You're in the gas station, whatever you're doing. So I always paid attention to how people treat others. Are they so focused on their path and their agenda that they're not being kind? They're not taking that little time to be kind. That was a small little way to really tap into how people feel about other people. Another one is to really listen to the clues. Are they talking more critically of their immediate family? Are they estranged from immediate family members? Those are red flags. um, Now obviously there's always some special cases where
mhm.
something may have happened that is not their fault. It's not necessarily saying that or defining that they're a bad person if they're estranged from someone in their family, but it's definitely worthy of getting more information. Red
It's like a
flags,
yellow flag instead of a red
that's
flag.
yes, absolutely. So, and then another good question is, or something to watch for is, do they have at least one or two really close friends that they've known for a really long time? Like maybe someone from childhood and someone from elementary school, or long-term friendships show, because there's no way that a person who, let's say they became friends with someone at 14, 15, 16, say middle school, high school, if they're 30, 40, or 50 and they're still friends with that person, no one can tell me they haven't had some type of conflict in all those
Mhm.
years of being friends. Even if you were, lost touch because you're old and you had a lot of
Mhm.
your time before Facebook.
MySpace went away. And
Yeah,
you're not there calling me
exactly.
anymore.
But those are signs to look for. And the other thing is, are they financially stable?
Mhm.
Do they like their vocation, or do they talk badly about their job? Is their job a journey of the broke, or is it a career of a lifetime? That's a big thing.
And I was asking
uh,
about too, like, because a lot of times people are situationally poor or they're in a
mhm,
bad situation. Or like sometimes with friends in high school, it's like, you change, you're a different person now,
mhm.
but you can still somewhat remain kind in contact with people. But sometimes people never grow. But I guess on the trajectory is like, if someone is currently in a situation, like someone can win the lottery and currently they're rich, but in 10 years from now, they're going to be broke because of their trajectory. It's not if someone's currently broke, but they have a lot of things they're working on to have a better situation. So in 5 years, they probably won't be. And how do you differentiate between like, okay, this is their current situation and it's going to stay that way, and this is a current situation, but they're going to be in a better place in 5 years.
Right. I think that's about their attitude
Mhm.
regarding little things. Are they frustrated if they're on the phone with you when they walk to the mailbox and pull those bills out?
Mhm.
Or are they excited? Oh, I'm glad these came, get these paid, and then I'll see, what's left over.
Mhm.
That's a big difference. If you pull out the mail out of the mailbox and you go, oh my gosh, and there's some curse words there, versus, oh, good, I'm glad these went ahead and got here because I didn't go online and pay this. I want to get these out of the way. The
Mhm.
person, that second scenario, that person that says, I'm glad these came, that's your guy that's going to not be paycheck to paycheck in 5 years. That's not the girl who's going to, because she's thinking positively about that situation, not negatively. It's about intention and mindset on things. um So, those are really important things to think about.
That's
So,
a good thing. And growing together was a concept in the 50s. Like you both get married at 18 and you build the house together, you have the kids together, you build a business together. But now the culture is more, do you have it now? Because you don't have it now, I'm not going to build anything with you. I want it prepackaged, ready made,
mhm.
microwave American convenient.
you
And
know,
just give you perspective on that.
I'm going to share something with you guys that's amazing. Okay. I went to Walton High School in Marietta, Georgia. We had there's about 4 or 5 couples that were high school sweethearts. We all graduated in 85. Don't do the math, it doesn't mean anything. So I want you guys to know that these couples are still together today.
Wow.
It is amazing. I'm so proud of that and these couples, and that is unheard of. Especially starting with the mid 70s and forward, it's very rare that high school sweethearts are still together. And so, um, growing together takes patience. I tell you what it takes. It takes fruits of the spirit. And if
Hmm.
anybody looks those up in Galatians,
No, none of them.
if yeah, if you take those in and you study each one of those fruits and you decide to absolutely, I want that fruit, I want to have that, ask God to give you that, and you do those, your relationship will work out even through changes and transitions. It's about being loving and making a decision to be peaceful and be supportive. It's a
So,
decision.
so you think deciding to walk in the fruits of the spirit can override like personality differences or calling differences or environmental differences or
It's the
life changes in life?
Absolutely. It's the difference between being Holy Spirit guided or being guided by ego.
Mm-hmm.
And which one do you think would help master that relationship?
Yeah, which God are you following, yourself or the Creator that made you and them
That's right.
and made marriage?
Hmm. Yep. There's a lot of nuggets in this podcast. This has been awesome to share with you guys, and I really appreciate the opportunity. And I didn't even know about Let's Talk Shalom. This is so exciting.
Yeah, we rebooted the television show that you were on. I think it was about a year ago. We went up there and filmed. So we just decided Stephen got to God unction him to start a podcast. I'm like, I had a show. I want to make into a podcast. So this is the second episode. Angela Castro, the identity coach that you're network with, was on here last Monday, sorry, last Wednesday. And of course, this is our second episode. And if you guys want to find Annalisa, you can go to Let's Talk Shalom. And she's one of the coaches listed in our Dream Helper network, how to contact her and about her. Well, this interview on there. And Annalisa, of course, has her own website too. So how do they contact you more directly, maybe?
Great
If
question.
they go to askannalisa.com,
Mm-hmm.
all the information is there, and they can also go to annalisaotoole.com, and there's all the information there. And I would love to connect.
Awesome. And you guys also, if you have trouble finding that, just reach out to me or Stephen, and we can connect you with her. And the O'Toole is with an E at the end. Yes.
That's right.
Can I ask you one final question?
Absolutely.
Is there any relationship you can't help? For someone out there who just feels like they're past that
That's a
point?
good one.
I can help anyone of any background, any um, belief system, any trouble that they've had, regardless of their trauma, their past, their belief. They will feel inspired if they have a session with me, and I will help them on their way from hurting to healing in one session. I can do it.
Awesome.
29 minutes, $29. That is
That's amazing.
phenomenal.
And I'll just end on this one thing. That's just Attract Your Soulmate. What's about to get published within the next 3 months, by the end of the summer, by the fall. Are you ready, guys? This is so exciting. It's How Love Grows. It will be phenomenal. It's a 2-hour program documentary that I'm creating. It is A to Z, everything a couple needs to have a successful, loving, intimate, best friendship, soulmate relationship. And it's going to be expensive, but it is so worth it. It's still far less than it would cost you to have 3 or 6 sessions where you have to figure out your work schedules and get in the car and go
Hmm.
to the counselor. This is where they can go home. They can go straight to the part that they want to go to the most. If they want to go to the communication section, great. They can fast forward it to the section on business and romance, whatever section. And then at the end of it, it will cover all of the most common problems from I think my partner is cheating, or I just don't feel heard. My partner doesn't listen. My partner is emotionally unavailable. My partner this, my partner that. So these questions and these common problems with couples will be all featured at the end of it. And I'm so excited about it. And so maybe when that comes out, maybe I'd love to be a guest again and we can talk more about it.
Oh, we'd love to have you.
I'd
Okay,
love
great.
it. Brian would love it. You're going to have to come back.
And
Okay,
I have a
great.
singles group, and I know other people with singles groups, so we're gonna share this to all the singles groups too.
Yes, it's
It's a lot of
absolutely
nuggets in there that they need.
there is. And it can be I was going to come out with the one specifically designed for singles.
Mhm.
It's the same information, but it is presented as if they're not currently in a relationship, which is
Oh,
very helpful.
sweet.
So yeah. So
Absolutely.
thanks so much, guys. This has been so much fun.
Oh, yes,
We
ma'am. We
really
appreciate
enjoyed
you.
it too.
Awesome. Well, I hope you guys have a great night. And so, Brian, can you tell us again what your website is for finding the coaches with your team?
Yeah, so I've got Let's Talk Shalom is the website for this podcast, plus
Okay.
my media stuff. I added all you guys on there on the coaching coaches on Let's Talk Shalom. Just let's talk shalom.com.
Oh,
There's a
okay,
drop
great.
down for coaches, and also Psalm 16 Ministry. I have trouble with the Google search, but Psalm16ministry.com. There's
Okay.
also the drop down over there for the coaches, and on shalomtoyourheart.com, our library. Every topic, I've got a coach for that section, that coach for that topic. Like someone looks up relationships on shalomtoyourheart.com/relationships, you'll see Annalisa at the top and how to contact her.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're
It
welcome.
is a great resource. All right.
Super.
Well, everybody, we're so glad you listened to this. Please share it with your friends and definitely check out Annalisa and life coaching, relationship help, all of the above. She can help you. Doesn't have to be romantic. She can help you with that relationship with your mom or your mother-in-law, and there is hope. Anything, Brian?
Let's talk shalom.com. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, donate, and definitely look at all the coaches we have on there for relationships or grieving or identity or trauma or your health or your dreams or whatever you need help with. We got somebody that can help you.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Awesome. Good night.